quite personal, improvised remarks from today. And you finished by looking into the future. How could you continue? But I'll come back to the original question of the human investment during these 50 years. And what did we learn today? So I'll pick some points that clearly it's very different from, let's say, infrastructural investment or other fields which are very linear, clear, that can be clearly planned. Also different from many private sector investments like agriculture, where, let's say, you have some policies, but the private sector doesn't always necessarily respond the way public sector thinks through the policies, and also anything could happen, like with the weather. But clearly, with this human investment, when I was listening to you, I was really, let's say, appreciating highly the experience, the thinking, the fascinating discussions. So clearly, the human investment has borne fruit. And I remember as a young civil servant, these master's course in water engineering and the other courses, they were, let's say, part of the portfolio that we were managing. And going back to that time, what did we expect of them as impact of education? So frankly, not as much as I have seen today. I have been really impressed that your stories, your careers, your lives have been different from one another. You have had different paths. But the general impression is really that you have made very good use of the opportunities you got, and you have also benefited your country. We heard stories through different generations. They were quite different, the fields that you studied, whether you came back to public or private or civil society or research sector, all those made differences in your stories. But one clear general background was internationalization of all higher education, both in Ethiopia and in Finland. I think it was fascinating to hear the first experiences in Jyväskylä, you being the first foreigners, and you could practically count yourselves how many were there, to this having continuously, was it 3 international programs? So this was a clear example how that has become a normal part of life. And also in Dr. Abeba Jirga's story, this all the seminar opportunities, online research collaboration, EU Erasmus funding, the world is different from what it used to be. So great changes have been there, but really this internationalization, which now provides different opportunities and binds all of us in a different way together. I picked up some of the comments on the pedagogy that were most mentioned, and I think it might be said that it might have been the hands-on or the practical, but maybe also the most innovative parts, not the lectures, but what, let's say, what took you out from the lecture halls. So there was this helicopter mentioned for topography going very high up. But I must say I have also heard one of the students earlier tell something totally opposite, how he had to go to the sewerage networks of Tampere to make some measurements, so going also to very down. But this was such a vivid experience that it really remained with him. The drilling to be explained by Tamrock, a Finnish firm, was something that was mentioned by some engineers. So, and from others, simply that if not only lectures were used, but students could also study from the books. So even that could be an innovation as a form of pedagogy. So you commented that as possible ways forward, you trusted that both research and studies should go both ways. So this was clearly something that you thought would be promising and natural. And also, if a new course would need to be developed, you recommended joint development of curriculum. So clearly this collaborative way of work is something that has developed throughout these decades. I'd like to come back to the comments of sauna in the beginning, because it really was such an experience to many of you. And I am thinking, why was it such an adventure? So maybe it was something that really took you out from your comfort zones. And in the end, that is something that needs to be done every now and then. So when I have joined the business group for a while, so I heard several comments on the need of more, let's say, work on entrepreneurship, not only what I listed here, public sector and research and so on. You mentioned that on the Ethiopian side, but frankly, I know that also on Finnish side, not all graduating, even engineers, get necessarily salaried work. So it's a necessity to find employment by self-employing. But also as a comment that Finland, with its slow, sluggish growth of Europe, has become too, let's say, too risk-averse. There should be more risk-taking in Finland, and for us to be more agile in understanding the developments in the world. So how to do that? You mentioned that startup financing would be one of the needs, but I'd like to mention that we have been, in fact, trying to find ways of developing entrepreneurship here in Ethiopia. It started by Ethiopian officials visiting in Aalto University the startup sauna. So sauna is an important part of this thinking of going out of one's comfort zone and making something different. And it's really a place where these startup small enterprises are nurtured. We brought here not the whole university branch of startup sauna, but a small boot camp, which is like a brief seminar of nurturing some entrepreneurs. And finally, an Ethiopian jury of high-level entrepreneurs here then judged the development of these business ideas. And I was surprised how even in a few days people could develop the ideas related to entrepreneurship. You mentioned, for instance, mixing big companies and small startup companies. We shall have another version. I think it's, again, like this boot camp in 1 month's time. This time it's called sauna safari. So again, sauna seems to be an important way of Finnish education. Do follow these. This is something that we really are trying to find ways of doing. So we agree with you that it would be useful to develop entrepreneurship through collaboration. Finally, we started the day by more or less, let's say, lecture type of speaking from the podium. And we have gone into more and more discussing interactive ways through the group, through the last session. So what we still need is that the most interactive way, of course, is when you talk more or less one-to-one. So then half of the people can be practicing their voice at the same time. So the reception will be the possibility for that in the evening. All of you can talk to each other, and let's hope some way we can then find also, if you still get some ideas, to gather them. So you're most welcome in the evening, 6:30 in my residence in Bole, and we hope to continue the discussion there. Thank you very much for very fruitful discussions, and we'll still continue. Thank you.